Hello everyone, welcome to my very first tutorial. Today I'm going to teach you how to paint a palm in watercolor. The palm drawing will be the third of a set of three. I've drawn a palm leaf before and a banana leaf before. This one is going to be another kind of palm. I'm not sure what the name is. I'm going to add the drawing process of this sketch. Remember to be very light with your pencils because watercolors are transparent. Obviously, you all know that already. The kind of paper I use, which makes the most difference, is the Langton Prestige 100% cotton. The reason why it's so good, it's because it absorbs the water really well, and the paper is not really crisp afterwards, and it takes quite a long time to dry, but it's totally worth it. The brushes I will be using are this set from Anna Mason. If you're a watercolorist, you should know her. She is a very professional watercolor. She does lots of realistic paintings of botanics, and they're really good. They don't hold a lot of water, but they're incredibly good for details, which is what we're going to work on today. So the sizes I've got are a 5, a 3 and a 1. The colors I'm going to use are mainly 2. I like to use tubes for this one because I can just change the amount of color I use and it makes all sorts of incredible shades. We've got cobalt blue hue, and then we have cadmium yellow hue. For the details, I might be using indigo. I suggest always to keep some scrap watercolor paper next to you to try the colors on and see what the color will look like on paper. Obviously you'll need a glass of water, and you'll definitely need a piece of just kitchen paper to dry your excess of water. Okay, I think we can start. So once you have the drawing done, this is what I came up with. I suggest it's very important that you add, even afterwards, some sort of folding of the leaves, because leaves are naturally quite floppy, so you want to keep these sort of folds onto them, and it gives a lot more realism to the drawing. With rubber, you might want to lighten some areas which might be too dark, because, as I've already said, watercolor is transparent. So, as a start, what I previously did with the other two colors is I simply put some cobalt blue on my palette and some cadmium yellow, and I separated them, and then from these two colors I sort of mixed more blue on this area, mixed them together with more yellow on this area, for example, so that you got a lot of shades of the same combination of colors. Up here I think I added some indigo just to have a really dark shade, but still using these two colors. As you can see here, I added the cadmium red, and I sort of mixed a little bit of it with the shades I already had to make really dark green, and that is the effect that you see is in this banana leaf, like these really dark lines. There is absolutely no black in this drawing, as it doesn't really exist in watercolor. We don't use it, it's not good to use. So I'm gonna redo this onto this clear area, but I might go back to use some of these colors later on. So I'm gonna put some blue on one side, some yellow, then we want to start with the lightest stones and then always darken it up. So I'm going to use my size 3, dip it in water, get some blue, get some yellow, mix together, more water. I can transfer it over. I want it darker, then I add more blue. I want it lighter, I add more yellow. We always want to try the color, so I'm gonna get my scrap paper, and it looks about right. Yep. It's always good to sort of mix the colors a little bit, so add some blue and then just drop it in. It might be a bit dark, you just get some water. With this side of the leaf I added more yellow. Because the leaf folds, you might want to decide what side of the leaf is going to be lighter because it will be in contact with the light, or which side will be darker because it's going to be hidden. So in this case I've sort of used more blue on this side of the leaf and more yellow on this other side of the leaf. You definitely don't want the colors to be flat, so you want to add just either yellow or blue or both. The cotton paper really needs a lot of water because it absorbs a lot, and but it's really good because it retains the paint exactly where you want it to go. But once it's wet, it's quite easy to just drop some extra color and let it disperse within the paint. So for example, this leaf I think is way too flat, so I'm gonna add some blue. I can just decide to drop it like that, and if it's too dark I can always use my descrente desse mundo. Ao encontrar você eu conheci o que é felicidade. The secret is just alternating the colors and not like sticking to just the green. So sometimes we add more blue, sometimes we add more yellow. We got a variety of colors within the same leaf. You see, I'm never using sort of the same shade for every single leaf, because every leaf will have different amount of yellows or blues in it. So I think this is gonna be quite dark, so I'm gonna go with this leaf here because I add a lot of yellow in on my brush. Okay, if you want to move to that, then I'll take a lot of blue, mix it with the green I've got, and I'm going to go down here like this, but it's gonna get lighter, so I'm gonna go down like this. If I still think that bit is too light, I'm gonna dry my brush onto the paper and collect the excess color, excess pigment. There we go. Top is gonna be super light, so I'm gonna go like that. Maybe more yellow, a bit dead. Now we go back to that leaf down there. I think up to here it's gonna be quite light. Then it's gonna be a shadow from the top of that leaf. So that's what we're gonna do. More yellow, bottom, going up. We move to the darker paint. There we go. Pra fazer feliz a quem se ama. The top is too dark because that's exposed to the sun, so I'm gonna pick up the color. I think I'm gonna change it into a more yellowy color. There we go, mix. That's better. Let's go back here. This is well exposed to the sun, so it's gonna go like that. And down here will be a little bit dark, so I'm gonna leave the base. Then I'm gonna take some of the darker green and just drop it. I think these areas are gonna be very dark. I'm gonna go around. Be careful because if it's wet, you don't want them to mix. I'm gonna go like that. And then I'm going to move to the lighter color, mix it together, and go like this. That mix. Now I got these folded bits of the leaf. Those are definitely quite light. So I'm gonna get my very light color, maybe add more yellow, and change the brush because it's quite thin. I think, did I say I was gonna use a 1 at some point? If not, I'm telling you now, I'm using a 1. I'm gonna stick to a very light green. Now, whilst it's wet, I think we want to make a decision of where the light hits this middle branch, and I think it's going to be around where the leaves are attached. So with a darker green, I'm gonna just drop the color by where the leaves are attached and the bottom, and where you might think that there's gonna be a little bit of shade, like up here. I think it's gonna be quite dark. Okay. Now the hardest bit is the shadows. We are sticking to a darker darker green with a more blue. Let's not go too dark just yet because it's a process of getting darker and darker. So we said that we decided that the light was coming from here, so these bits were gonna be lighter, and that's something that we're gonna remember all the way through. Same on this side. So let's start from the easier bits. Up here, you see, still wet. We should wait a little bit longer. We're gonna add some shadows from the top. and I think bottom as well, like that. With some water, we want to soften these edges because they're too harsh. So clean brush with water, you just soft the edges on both sides, like that. Then down here, like that. So, oops, too much water. Soften these edges.
Desse mundo, ao encontrar você, eu conheci o que é felicidade, meu amor.
There's a big difference between mixing the colors on your palette and dropping the color onto the wet paint on your paper. If you see here, for example, I clearly dropped yellow onto the paper without mixing it onto the palette, and the effect is much more dotted and is different. So down here, this needs to be a lot darker. So I'm gonna move this. Don't wanna go crazy with the blue, but there we go. And I think all this part of the leaf is gonna be dark because the light comes from above. So I'm gonna go all the way down, and then I'm gonna soften the edges like that. We definitely want that dark. Now, the first stage of shadowing is terminated, but we definitely need to go darker. So we start from the top, which is now has dried already again. So, and we're going to darken those areas again. This time, because you want to go darker, but we don't want to just add the same colors again, I'm gonna add some indigo. I'll show you what color it is. So I'm gonna show you what color it is. And it's like similar to a Prussian blue. Don't know if you can actually see the color. And if we mix a little bit of that with the colors that we already have on our palette, okay, I don't know how to pronounce it, we will create a sort of a shadow that will work well. So I'm going to put this here so you can see, and I'm going to mix it here where I had my blue, my yellow. You can still add them, maybe more blue, and then we add our indigo. And I'm going to show you this. It's slightly lighter than the version we already had. I don't know if you can see. And in it has got the colors that we have been using all the way through. So it will work well. So using the new green that we created with indigo, cobalt blue and cadmium yellow, we are going to find the darkest tones. this is more of a yellow. So yes, we use the same indigo, but we add a little bit of the yellow. We want to call the color back. We don't want to just throw in a completely different green. And in fact, if you see, is a more yellowy version of the same shade. Here down here would have to be super dark, but we'll work on that later. Layers is the trick. Now you're just gonna step back a little bit and look at all the areas that you think should go darker, a lot darker. And you're gonna do that, darken them up.
Quero a vida sempre assim, com você perto de mim, até o apagar da velha chama.
You know, we want it even darker. I'm going to add some Payne's Grey.
Ao encontrar você.
Watercolors. So these were the pretty dark ones we were trying. Doesn't make much of a difference. Let's add more Payne's Grey then. Yeah, that's definitely very dark. And we want that for the darkest of the darkest. So they really caught like the corners and underneath. Down there is definitely dark. And here we had, we did have like a sort of fold. Let's get it back. Water, soften the edges. Okay. Right. This definitely has the shade of this leaf above it, so I'm gonna just go like this.
Que lindo, quero a vida sempre assim, com você perto de mim.
Now, whilst everything dries, I want to focus on the center of the leaf, because I think like here there's no attachment for some reason. So I want to make sure all of these bits are attached. And dark at the bottom, because the leaf is going to produce a sort of shadow like that. Here, those have tiny fold. Here, oh, here we want to darken it, and here also. So I'm going to go on the same sort of green with a little bit of blue, and I'm going to work on that shadow here. The dark, a watery version of the dark paint we created with indigo and yellow and blue, and we're gonna go through very lightly. It doesn't have to go be a straight line. You can start it and then finishing it without the middle. No.
E eu que era triste, descrente desse mundo. Ao encontrar você, eu conheci o que é felicidade, meu amor.
You always think you're done, then you never are, or you always think that because here there's a curve, then you might want to show it. So the middle bit is going to be darker because it forms a curve here, and the light hitting it hits the two sides. You have to make sure it's very soft. So you have to soften the edges, and then the middle can be darker. That's the same here. It forms a curve. Light comes from here. This bit should be very light, and this bit's darker. We can do that. That. That.
Seu corcovado, o Redentor, que lindo. Quero a vida sempre assim, com você perto de mim.
So when you think you've got all your shadows in place and the light bits are very contrasted and they pop out enough, then I think you are done. So it's down to you and what stage you think your painting is. You know, it could be never ending. You can always feel like you want to add extra bits, and for example here I think I would like to add some little lines. I think I'm gonna change my brush and use a bear 000, so very thin top, and with our dark paint. Just when it is in contact with the main bit of the leaf, the trunk, I want to add some little lines. Right, I'm gonna stop now because otherwise I'm gonna carry on forever. So this is the final product. Hope you like it. See you later.